everybody. It's good to see everybody here and weathering the cold, stormy, not stormy anymore, but we got through the storms and now the cold weather. It's beautiful outside. We'll try to get through this meeting, within the next 3 or 4 hours. No, kidding. And then we can get out and enjoy the day a little bit. Before we get started, Doreen, could you lead us in the pledge, please? Thank you, Doreen. Okay, we have got a lot of presentations this morning and a lot of comments from Brian coming up, so we've got a busy schedule. The only comment I would say with all that's going on around the world, the old saying that the more things change, the more things stay the same. We have to keep doing what we do because we can't figure all that other stuff out. It's going to affect us in a lot of different ways, to the positive, to the negative, whatever. So we just, stick to our game plan and what we do best, and obviously pray for the men and women in harm's way, the countries that are affected, and the families that are going through all the turmoil, because obviously they have nothing to do with all this crazy stuff. And with that said, we'll turn to a brighter note. But approval of the minutes. Everybody had a chance to look at them? Do I have anybody that wants to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second from Bill? Did I hear? Oh, somebody. Okay, Doreen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any public comments? No public comments? Great. We'll just jump right into presentations.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And for our first presentation on the agenda, so in the past, we have introduced our interns to you all at the beginning of their internship. But we thought at the end of their internship, internally, our team gets a final presentation from their experience with Visit St. Pete Clearwater team. And we thought maybe we switch it up. Instead of us just seeing this presentation, maybe we have them give the presentation to you all and inform you on what they've learned during their time. So today, we've got Adriana Vargas, who's one of our interns. You all met her earlier on, but just as a reminder, she's a graduate from UCF. She studied advertising and public relations, and she's got some tremendous experience already, not only in tourism, but also in healthcare communications through her roles with Tampa General Hospital, Curley and Penn, Visit Orlando, as well as Visit St. Pete Clearwater. So she's going to be completing her internship at the end of April, and today she's here to kick us off.
Welcome, Adriana. Good to see you.
Good morning, everyone. Before I get started, I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to both Brian and Craig to be able to come up here and share with you all a little bit about what I've been up to over the past 6 months during my internship at Visit St. Pete Clearwater. Like Brian said, I was able to formally introduce myself at November's TDC meeting. But again, for those who need a little refresher, my name is Adriana. I graduated last May from UCF, and I studied public relations and advertising. So I'm here today to talk to you all a little bit about some of the projects I've had over a few of the departments at Visit St. Pete Clearwater. And then towards the end of my presentation, I'll get into some highlights of my experience and some key takeaways. I think the most important thing to start out with, a majority of my role has to do with activations and the community and brand engagement team. So I've had the opportunity to be involved in multiple activations from start to finish. This includes everything from, organizer logistics, coordinating those with event organizers, to on-site activities like setup, tear down, and event execution. I'll get into some of the events I've been a part of in just a moment. After events, I help manage inventory of promotional items, and I'm also responsible for researching new promo items that we can give out at our activations. So some of the promo items I've worked on during my time here have been air fresheners, reusable straw caps, foam footballs, and magnetic wooden bottle openers, which all look a lot cooler than they sound, I promise. I've also had the opportunity to table at different internship and career fairs across Pinellas and Hillsborough counties, where I've engaged with students about our internship program and our brand ambassador program. So on the topic of our brand ambassador program, I'm assisting in planning the brand ambassador fam trip. This is just a day that we take our brand ambassadors out across the county to further familiarize them with our destination and also celebrate their commitment to VSPC. Last year, our team was tasked with researching out-of-market events that we felt could be a good fit for us, and we split those up by target markets. So one of the markets I received was Nashville, and through that research, I was able to find Music City Food and Wine Festival. Fast forward to today, we have a full sponsorship of the event, and we'll be activating on site in April, and I plan to attend that activation alongside Jake. Once a semester, our team plans a county tour, so either North or South County. It is the best day of the semester. It is so much fun, and it's just a great way to familiarize interns with the destination that they get to talk about all the time. And then finally, myself and our other current intern, Maria, will be leading an activation next weekend, all weekend long at the Pier 60 Sugar Sand Festival in Clearwater. So if you're out, planning on coming, come say hey. We have a big booth and our inflatable game. So here's some of the events I've been a part of. Started out with a very busy Bucks versus Eagles game. We had a co-branded bucket hat with them that people went absolutely bonkers for, so that was a really great experience. Fast forward to John's Pass Seafood Fest. Had to include this one. I ate a lot here. So much fun. And then I traveled to Orlando with Daniela for Fiesta in the Park. My first golf activation was the Annika. My first beach activation was Standing Ovations, and then came ReliQuest Bowl Beach Day, then Pie Day at the airport, and ending with Duck and Drive Jeep event. Those are just a few of them, not pictured, Grand Prix, and I will be at Valspar this weekend as well. So moving on to the Film Commission. With the Film Commission, I've contributed to writing and sending out our monthly industry newsletters. These highlight a lot of the great incentives we have and kind of what's new, what's going on in the area film-wise. I take part in generating the monthly TDC reports and creating social content for our social channels for Film SPC on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. I help to update and organize our film locations gallery just to make sure that everything we're showing productions as far as film locations go is as accurate and up to date as possible. Another exciting project I worked on with the Film Commission was gathering and writing copy for a potential film tourism map that the Film Commission had an idea for. And then lastly, I helped to update a county-wide list of city liaisons so that we can easily connect productions with whoever they need at the county. So for the Sports Commission, I write copy for Play Easy. This is essentially a social network that works to connect event organizers with destinations and facilities. I helped to update all of the facilities listings on our Sports Commission page on our website so that we can make sure everything we're offering these event organizers is up to date and accurate, especially following hurricane damage and closures. I would say that my favorite thing I worked on with the Film Commission was the Sports Commission, was installing signage at host hotels of teams participating in the Shriners Children's Clearwater Invitational. It was an idea we had as a way to enhance the fan and team experience in the area, and I was responsible for coordinating logistics with all 12 host hotels. It was a great experience. It was a great day. I never thought I would add signage installation pro to my resume, but I definitely can say I can now. So up top there, we have our window clings that we installed, and below are the floor clings that we installed. So like I mentioned before, I studied public relations at UCF. It's what I really kind of lean towards most. So PR is a super important piece of this puzzle for me. That being said, for PR, I worked on inputting media clips into our CRM, which is SimpleView. And I created a living document to help identify what's new in the destination over 2026 and 2027 when it comes to accommodations, dining options, and unique experiences. Last year, I also responded to a media request for information and was able to provide copy that was included in a destination spread for Scuttlebutt Magazine. I help write pitches over various kinds of topics for both Brand USA and Visit Florida, and help to create itineraries for visiting media. So now for some highlights and takeaways. There are some really great perks to this internship. Has to start with the work environment. Everyone is so uplifting and encouraging and available to answer any questions. So I couldn't mention highlights of this internship without kind of touching on that first. We have a super flexible schedule, and I think this is also really important too for working across several different departments. You'd be surprised, but sometimes people can get stuck into really specific niches when it comes to internships, so getting that experience to work across different teams is super important to me. I think most important, though, is having the opportunity to be given real responsibility. This is something that I've always really looked for and valued in an internship, and this is definitely something that you can find at Visit St. Pete Clearwater. For some key takeaways, things that I'm going to walk away with, for sure, it would be event planning and execution skills. This was something I never really dipped my toes into previously, but it's something that I really came to love and enjoy. I also was able to grow my skills in writing and content creation. And again, going back to the teamwork and collaboration part of it, that's something that's super important to gain experience in before moving forward in my career as well. So while I could sit here and talk about this internship for forever, I think we've got a meeting to get to. So that's it for me. If anyone has any questions, happy to answer them.
Any questions for Adriana?
Thank you.
No? All right. Well, congratulations. Thank you. I hope our communications department was listening to your pitch for employment here, because we need folks like you.
Yes, I will take it.
But in any event, I really appreciate your time here, the energy you brought, just amazing. And now that you're leaving us, or soon, you all can get back to work, because she's apparently been doing most of it. So
Not true at all. No.
I'm kidding, but thank you again for being here. Presentation was wonderful, and your energy is great. I wish you all the best, and enjoy the rest of your stay with us.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
All right, well, of course, I forgot to let everybody introduce themselves, but we thought we'd wait on Clyde and Copley to get here first. No, I just forgot. I just forgot. So, Chuck, if we'll start with you and then work our way around.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm Chuck Prather from the Birchwood, downtown St. Petersburg.
Good morning, everyone. Tricia Rodriguez of the Tropic Boaters and the Clearwater Ferry.
Good morning, everyone. Dave Gaddis, Mayor of Bel Air Beach, representing the Barrier Islands.
Captain Dylan Hubbard from Hubbard's Marina.
Good morning, everybody. Copley Gertis, City Council, City of St. Petersburg, and Chair, I apologize for being
that's
tardy.
fine. No problem. Glad you're here.
Amanda Coffey with the County Attorney's Office.
Go ahead, Clyde.
Good morning, Clyde Smith, Belmar Beach Resort, Treasure Island. Thank you.
Morning, Phil Henderson, Starlight Cruises, South Pasadena, Madeira Beach, and Clearwater Beach.
Good morning, Doreen Moore, TRS, Travel Resort Services, Vacation Rentals.
Morning, Bruce Rector, Mayor of the City of Clearwater.
Russ Kimball, Sheraton Sankey, Clearwater Beach.
Brian Lowak, Visit St. Pete Clearwater.
Well, thank you, everybody. My name's Dave Eggers, the chair this year, and I'm really honored to be here with all of you. So this is really, really fun for me. Let's go on to our second presentation, Brian.
Yes, second presentation is going to be our resident sentiment survey results, and I believe Kylie and Eddie are going to tag team this one. We had not done a resident sentiment survey for a couple years, and so now we were in a place where we wanted to really take a pulse of the residents and their sentiment towards the destination, tourism, hospitality. Make sure that we are messaging correctly, and then where there is not awareness, where can we improve and tell our story better to our residents. So they've got some pretty great findings, and they're here today to share with you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kylie Diaz, Vice President of Community Engagement with Visit St. Pete Clearwater. And, you know, tourism doesn't just happen within a destination, it happens within a community. So it's important that we really understand what our residents are thinking and feeling about tourism. And it's more than just a data exercise. It is a listening tool for us. We did this not only in surveys, but we actually did interviews with residents as well. And so it helps us to understand like where we're doing well, where we can improve, and what matters most to the people that call this place home. But I am not the data guru, so I'm going to introduce you to Eddie Kirsch, our Director of Digital and Data, who is actually going to take you through the study and its results. I just wanted to introduce him.
Thank you, guys, and I'm excited to see all of you. It's a full house today. I love it. So I'm thrilled about the opportunity to conduct this survey and ask people who live here, their thoughts about tourism. We overall were able to survey over 1,200 residents in Pinellas County. We basically divided our survey into 6 different regions to make sure that we had representation from each region. And we also tried to kind of weight these based on the overall population levels. So you see that, there's more surveys conducted through some of those inland regions and things like that. But overall, we had, a wide variety of respondents, anyone who was 34 to 65 and older. About 65% of them had moved here and 35% were born in Pinellas County. The average respondent had lived here for about 14 and a half years, so they've probably seen a few things over that period of time. Nearly 74% owned a residence, and then 26% either rented or were in some other type of resident. So really, we had a great mix of people who filled out and gave us their thoughts and feedback. Broadly, Pinellas County residents attribute their destination, 9 out of 10 individuals believe that this destination offers festivals and events, outdoor recreation, waterways, beautiful waterfronts, scenic beauty, white sand beaches, opportunities to relax. That's good because that is often what we're telling our visitors about. So it's good to see that our residents agree with, what we're telling our visitors on. And, 3 out of 4 of those residents believe that Pinellas County is a very diverse place. It's a place where it's relaxed, you can be in tune with nature, but it's also a place that is lively and full of energy and creative and vibrant. A lot of these key attributes that we share with the world, Pinellas County residents agree upon as well. And also, it's interesting because we did look at these through the various regions, so we wanted to see, how do these regions agree or disagree, but there's broad alignment, nearly 8 out of 10 in each region believe that tourism benefits the lives of residents. And that was great to see that there's agreement no matter where you live, that is a fact. And there's a lot of agreement on the economy in terms of the impact of tourism into the destination. 89% believe that tourism is important to the vitality of Pinellas County's economy. 87% believe businesses rely or thrive on tourism. 87% as well believe that the tourism industry supports restaurants, attractions, events that appeal to both residents and visitors. And 7 and 10 believe that tourism makes Pinellas County a better place to live. So really high majorities in all those different areas. And this was a very interesting topic that we got to ask, and talk to people about as well, was the impact of jobs. 81%, again, a very broad majority, believe that Pinellas County tourism provides jobs to residents. 62% believe that Pinellas County has ample opportunities in the tourism industry. This is not just a pat on the back report, though. There's only half that believe that it is easy to get a job in Pinellas County's tourism industry, and 40% agree that jobs in Pinellas County typically pay well. What I found interesting as I was diving further into this was there's some big differences in the region responses to these. For instance, St. Pete Beach and Madeira Beach were more likely to agree that it's easy to get a job in the tourism industry and that the jobs pay well. It's interesting, too, because that population were also more entrepreneurial and business owners. So, they tended to be the ones also hiring for those positions, right? there was less agreement when you looked at the St. Pete area or the more inland areas of the destination, which, they might not necessarily recognize that someone working in the restaurant industry is also working in the hospitality industry or the tourism industry. They're also serving tourists, or the retail store is also, having visitors, come in and shop in their destination. So as we look into this further, we're beginning to realize that we can have different messaging and have different efforts for different areas to help us do a better job too. And then engaging with tourism, residents agree or strongly agree, again, a large majority of that visitor spending generates funding for community services in the area. And most people enjoy interacting with visitors in Pinellas County. This is, again, something that we're very happy to see. I don't think all destinations have this high of a percentage. And 74% of Pinellas County have generally a healthy balance of tourism and resident activity. So again, these are all very large majorities. We're very happy to see these numbers as high as they are. And again, with some concerns, 82% of Pinellas County residents do support responsible tourism growth. They are supportive of those initiatives. And 80%, also believe that tourists bring some level of congestion and traffic, which, driving in from the Gulf to Bay area right now, it took me a little extra time to get here, so I can understand their thoughts and opinions there. 57% believe that tourists are respectful of my community. Again, this is something that as we dive more into the regions, we see a more stark difference. And it's actually the opposite there. There's more concern out on the beaches for tourism being respectful to their communities and the impacts of tourism on those communities. And so again, it helps us indicate what we can provide to those areas is more marketing to the visitors in those communities to be respectful of the communities and to make sure that they are not harming the communities in sort of a longer lasting impact. 52% believe that tourism negatively impacts my community's natural resources. And 53% are worried about the impact that tourism has on our community culture. These are great pieces of information for us to really talk deeply about and provide, more of an idea. And as Kylie mentioned, we didn't just do a survey. We also have video recorded interviews from these residents to kind of get a deeper understanding of why they feel the way that they do. So we look forward to, kind of diving deeper into those. And then these are some benchmarks for us to hopefully improve on. Obviously we want people to be aware of the impacts of some of the tourism investments. So beach renourishment efforts along Pinellas County beaches, improvements and renovations to local parks and preserves. Not everyone is aware of what TDT dollars do and what they don't do, and so this is kind of good for us to make sure that these numbers are improving the next time we conduct this survey. In regards to Visit St. Pete Clearwater, of those 1,200 individuals, about 73% of them were aware of us as an organization. And of those, of that 73%, nearly 6 in 10 were extremely or very familiar with our organization. 36% were at least a little or moderately. Only 5% of those who said, yeah, I know that there is Visit St. Pete Clearwater, but I have no idea what they do. That was a very small percentage of those responses. And then in terms of the overall satisfaction with us and our job, 70% of them were extremely or very satisfied. 22% were moderately or a little. 7% didn't really know, and maybe 1 or 2 people said no, not at all. So that's positive for us, but obviously this is more about how we can what we can do moving forward, not necessarily a job report for Visit St. Pete Clearwater. Any questions or comments on the resident survey?
Did you guys use one of our contractors to do this, or was this something you guys did?
We used Future Partners, and so the survey was conducted. We used a mixture of outlets, though. Future Partners had an online panel survey, and then we also spread the word through a variety of platforms, email, LinkedIn, Meta, basically anywhere that we felt like we could get the word out, we wanted to get the word out. So we were pretty open in terms of just trying to make sure that if people had something to tell us, we wanted to make sure that this was an opportunity for them to kind of give us some of their thoughts and feedback through this survey.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
So respondents were identified through all those different platforms, and
That's correct.
it's kind of an elective, passive thing.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Doreen?
And following, Dylan, on your comments, so the personal interviews were conducted through
Through future partners, and those were from the online panel surveys. Those were not, at the survey there was an opportunity to elect if you wanted to be a part of that program, and then those were followed up from the people who said, yeah, I would love to.
And they did the video. Okay, good. I just wanted to comment that looking back over the last 20, 30 years, I was encouraged by these numbers in terms of the resident awareness. Thinking back years ago with the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber and involvement, we always struggled with resident awareness of what the benefits are of tourism. We had a campaign many, many years ago called Follow the Dollar, because it was the trickle-down effect of how each of the types of supporting industries were impacted and how the residents benefited. So seeing these positive numbers is very encouraging, which then, says that the job that we're doing, the team is doing at Visit St. Pete Clearwater is very much improving. And, yes, there's some negative things there that we have to work on, but, you all are doing a great job in that regard. So it just points out that it is a constant, ongoing benchmark that we have to work with. And I support all that you're doing, but it was encouraging to see those numbers. So thank you.
Thanks, Doreen. Anybody else? Yes, Chuck.
Thank you, Chair. This is probably a question for Brian or Chair. Doreen just mentioned about a past campaign. We saw some folks that you're always going to have the locals that just aren't happy with tourism and clogged roads. But we work so hard to bring tourism in, and it impacts this community with jobs, in helping our tax base, and the list goes on and that we know of. Have we thought about putting some money aside for a smaller campaign just to do what Doreen talked about we've done in the past, which is make local residents aware of how much good you do, we do, tourism does?
Great point, Mr. Prather, and absolutely, yeah. When I first came on a few years ago, that was one of the first things that we discussed. Is at the time we did have we had just done the strategic plan, we had just done a resident sentiment survey, and one of the things, the first campaign that they rolled out for consideration was how do we communicate the benefits of tourism to residents. As a almost 38-year resident of Pinellas County, I didn't know the value of tourism. I didn't know Visit St. Pete Clearwater exists. I didn't know how it impacted me. But since being over here, as I've learned, that's been something that we've really focused on as a team, is communicating that to the broader community here, because it's important. It's our #1 employer, and it's positively impacting the pocketbooks of every single household in Pinellas County. And so how do we tell that story to residents in a way that resonates with them, other than we don't pay state income tax because of tourism? Well, there's a lot of benefits, and our value of tourism from Visitors with Love campaign is how we do that. And we continue to evolve that campaign. And when we're activating at local events this weekend, when we'll be at Valspar, the message to visitors when we meet and engage them is telling them about all the great places in the destination and the things that they can enjoy while they're here. But when we interact with residents, it's that from visitors with love and that value of tourism messaging. So we'll continue to evolve it, and we've got branded stages that we have at a lot of these events. We've got the handouts. As long as I have any say with it, that will be a cornerstone in our messaging.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chuck, that it's a broader message that we need to spread. I thought in the annual marketing meeting, Brian, one of the best slides you showed was that slide that showed how much real property taxpayers in Pinellas County save because of the tourism industry. And I think that's what doesn't get told often enough. It's not just the bed tax. These resorts we have on Clearwater Beach, St. Petersburg, and St. Pete Beach throughout the county, they pay real property taxes too. And the value of those properties is greatly affected by the volume of tourism. But they contribute far more than just the bed tax to our local economy and to taxpayers here. So, but I appreciate your slide because that's a component I think most of our residents don't understand is that impact.
I guess I would just add that it was interesting in the results that, you know, there's thoughts about tourists as an idea, and then there's like thoughts about welcoming your friends and your family. And everyone that we talked to was very excited about showing the destination to their friends and to their relatives. And I think that, you know, it's information like that that gives us maybe a little bit more of an idea that, like, you know, sharing that these people who come down here are our friends, they're our relatives, they're our loved ones. You know, there's an opportunity to maybe tell that story a little bit more as well as the economic story.
Because we're on the topic, and I'm never going to pass up an opportunity to talk about this, is that, as the mayor suggested, the impact, it's not just the bed tax. And so last year, our 15 million visitors that came here, not only was it that $10 billion total economic impact, but it was local, real dollars that are contributing to our community, such as the bed tax that we reinvest into capital projects throughout the destination, including the Beach Nourishment Project. But it's also the real property taxes combined with the sales tax spent here. So when you add those up, it was about $400 million last year in local taxes, sales and property taxes that then go towards general government services, both in Pinellas County as well as our 24 municipalities. And so those fund general government services. They also fund capital projects. We talk about it all the time. The penny for Pinellas, 1/3 of that is paid by visitors. That's what all the municipalities and local and county use for capital projects, trails, fire stations, police vehicles, all the above. So again, getting that message across, because I think a lot of the headlines when you hear about tourism, the number that always gets reported is bed tax collection, and that's just one piece of the bigger benefit to residents.
Yeah, Dylan.
Yeah, on that front, just sitting here thinking the From Visitors with Love campaign was really cool. Is there a concerted effort, like leading up to spring break, to get that message out there, like a spin up, if you will, of like, hey, tourism is coming. We're all dreading the traffic that increases, but here's all the benefits. That would be really interesting. And I think just from a business perspective, always looking for content, I think that would be cool for Visit St. Pete Clearwater to send out packages to local businesses. Like, here's a quick piece of content you can share to help spread that message too.
Yeah. That's a great idea. I was just thinking about like cost benefit. You know, people are always in their own minds thinking of the cost, the traffic, it's all the burdens and all of that our residents kind of go through, but not necessarily connecting all the benefits. I think this organization does a really good job. Our staff does a really good job of doing all that with residents, but maybe the other hat that I wear on the county side, the county government side of business, we're not doing our part on that enough. Because when I was looking at these tourism, awareness of tourism investments, I don't know, to me that doesn't sound good enough, you know, and we need to do a better job. I mean, maybe we need Adriana to help us on the government side. But no, getting that message out is really a big deal because to property taxes, sales taxes, and so, but it's interesting when they make the connection with their family, right? We said that we're getting a lot of folks that are coming down, families, and they really are proud of the area. So in some ways, they kind of wear that, but I'm still not sure that they totally get all of these connections. So some of them are the Dali Museum. Some of them are the beautiful renourishment of the beaches, the hotels that we have, all of the different groups that we have here to take care of them. But I'm not sure that there's another level of connection if we figure that out. And then it's still getting it out to people, because I tell you, the more I see us trying to connect with people on every level, on every issue, we hit one and miss four, what the numbers are just that way. So this is really a big deal, what you all are involved in here and our staff's involved, and the impact on our community is out of sight, but I still think your point about they're coming, and oh, by the way, be patient with everybody, because here's what it does for you and for us. To the penny for Pinellas, it's a big deal that 32 or 33% of that penny money that our residents have just grown to love, as far as it comes from our visitors. That's a big deal. So anyway, great suggestion. I don't know it's obviously past that time this year, but something to think about as we go forward for sure. Any other comments?
Yes.
Yes.
One of the things I think that's changed in the last time since we did the survey before and now is the amount of residential rentals that are out there, and they're not on the beach. When we've seen those pictures and everything of where they are, they're not on the beach. They're on the mainland. They're in different smaller areas, communities and everything. I do the shopping, and you don't think of them necessarily at Highland and Lakeview, the tourists, but you go into Publix and you see them in there checking out the groceries and buying groceries and everything too, or in Walgreens and places like that. They're in our community, I think, even more so and than they have been. And so that adds to what you're thinking, Chair, to how we get out to those areas, not just thinking they're on the beach. And I think that's part of what you're saying. The fortunate part is, too, is we feel like a community because we are everything to everybody. And that's the good part about it, when they say, I'm proud of where I live, let's go show it.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I'm going to actually try to reach out to Doreen and chat a little bit about this topic, because it also creates a negative pushback, because there are a lot of short-term rentals in our communities, most of which, I'd say 90%, 95% are just great community folks. They just come in and enjoy the time. But it just takes a few, 5, 10% of those folks, and I don't have the actual numbers, so sometimes you have to exaggerate a point. I'm not sure what the numbers are, but they're really hurting our communities. And so visitors, bad for communities on that small little level. It kind of gets a little bit of noise going. And so, we've tried to go down a path. The state's kind of intervened a little bit. We're trying to fight back a little bit, but we're trying to accommodate visitors and yet preserve our communities and our residential areas. And it's a tough battle to remind folks about those benefits. Doesn't justify playing pickleball in a backyard at 3 o'clock in the morning. So there's and I'm again hyperbole here, but the point is that we do have these challenges. So those little things kind of erode a little bit on some of these benefits that we were like, no, they're problems. Well, not really, but in some minor uses there are. So
Yeah, and I mean, I guess I think that this data maybe helps us a little bit. As I said earlier, there's a lot more business owners out in the St. Pete Beach community and Madeira Beach and those areas. So maybe it's more working with the business, communities out there and helping, provide more window clings and more messaging in those storefronts and in those businesses and working with them. Whereas in the St. Pete, area, or in Largo or Pinellas, it's more trying to figure out how can we reach out to the residential communities that are working maybe in a restaurant or a storefront, and they might not necessarily think of themselves as hospitality workers, but there could be more of a direct message to more of the community there versus out on the beaches, for instance.
Well, again, to the message that Dylan was saying, and I'm not sure how you do it and what we do, but I know that oftentimes we do get out to we have 24 cities here, right? And a county that have meetings and such, but, getting out to, in some regards, to our commission meetings that we have that lead up to it, maybe starting in October, just getting out there and saying, hey, we've got a 5-minute presentation we'd just like to give to you, or 10-minute presentation on what tourism has done, and make that connection with our elected officials who maybe can make the connection also. I mean, again, that's just another concept, another idea, but it's firsthand, it's right face-to-face, and it's connecting what we do here, but also what those elected officials want to hear, the residents are in their ears about. So I don't know, might be something to think about as we go into, yeah, Doreen.
And working with the Chambers of Commerce, because they are members, we do support them, VSPC. And while not all of them are tourism focused, I think that they could help deliver that message, in carrying that forward too.
A lot of those chambers have their own newsletters, have a nice article on what's going on sometimes to remind our business owners. Okay, thank you. That was good. Appreciate that. Okay, go right ahead.
Next, I'm gonna invite Stephanie up, and the next two presentations, just every month, we don't get the opportunity to really talk about some of the great work that the different teams are doing, and so we want to try to do that more often. And today you're going to hear from Stephanie on meetings and conferences and the great things they're doing, and then next you'll hear from Caleb and the great things going on in sports. So take it from there, Stephanie.
Thank you, Brian. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm actually one of those percentage of people who moved to the destination, but I've been here for 19 years now, and I couldn't be prouder to be able to represent Visit St. Pete Clearwater as the Director of Meetings and Conferences, and I help bringing people to our destination. So we'll start with little update on the year to date. So our fiscal year starts on the 1st of October. So 1st of October 2025 up until beginning of March, we've pulled this data. So the number of leads that we've received since that time has been 738. These are leads of people requesting, an RFP to see if they can host their meeting in our destination. 738 leads is really good compared to what we had last year, because we were at 550 this time last year. But of course, unfortunately, the 1st of October of 2024, we got impacted, and so the number of leads dropped down. It's really good to see them come back up again. So 738 leads. And different companies, a lot of them fall into corporate, because that's kind of the bucket when it doesn't go into anything else. So it could be a car wash franchise company, it could be a paint company. So corporate is our biggest market over there, followed by associations, and then we got the health and medical, educational, tech, financial, manufacturing, and pharmaceutical. Out of those leads, 7,000, just over 7,000 of them were for 2025, so it's good to see that we had a lot of last-minute bookings for group. Almost 120,000 of those were for 2026. So again, it's a good short booking window to try and get things in the year for the year. The largest amount, though, at 130,000 room nights is for 2027, 55,000 for 2028, 24,000 for 2029, and we got our first request for 2030 at 700 room nights. So our booking window is kind of at the 12 to 18 month for groups on the majority, and because of the number of leads that we have this year so far, that's putting us in a great position for 2027, 2028 in the future. The number of room nights as well, those are the number of room nights that group has actually stayed in the destination for this fiscal year. And going with what Eddie said before, it's quite the economic impact at just over 42 million. We've been really excited to have changed our incentive program around as well. I was talking to a lot of the hotels, asking them, you know, what are the need periods for this particular year? We came up with different months between us all, and we're using data from the hotels as well as the data that we get. And we came up with an incentive program that just about doubled the incentive amount that we were able to give back to our hotel partners to help them secure groups in our destination, especially if we were competing against Tampa or competing against Orlando or different parts of the country. So just in 2 months, when we launched this incentive program at the beginning of January, we've given an additional $70,000 back to the hotel partners in incentives to help secure those groups. And that actually worked out to 32 additional meetings being held in the year for the year, and added on another 16,000 room nights. The success of this incentive has been so great that we're actually extending it to the end of April, and then we'll see where the budget stands, and if we can continue to increase it, we will. We'll go from there. So far in this fiscal year, it's $250,000 of incentive funds have been allocated to the hotel partners to date, and those are all for definite bookings that we are going to be having in this year. We do have almost another $300,000 that's been allocated to potential meetings that want to be held in the destination. So we're doing everything we can to get them here. And then another thing that we do actively are the trade shows, the meetings and conference team. We go to different trade shows that have been organized by third parties. IMEX is the biggest trade show of the year that we go to. There are usually 4 or 5 of us that attend that because of the number of meeting planners that go. And so far, that was just held at the middle of October last year, and we've had 2,900 room nights booked already from that particular show, with an almost $3 million economic impact value. And yes, I think some of you were at IMEX last year. Holiday Showcase, we go to Chicago every year. It's one of the biggest shows in Chicago and a great destination for us. From that one, we had 1,300 room nights, economic impact value of $2.5 million. And then RCMA is a religious conference that we just went in February, and we've got 1,300 potential room nights already, which again is huge from that because it was a show that we just went to, and sometimes it can take 6 to 12 months to be able to get those meetings in our way. And then sales missions, these are missions a lot of the time that our sales managers are doing themselves, so they put a lot of effort into these. And again, you know, we're doing these throughout the year to bring meeting planners and conferences to our destination. And then FAMs and site visits. Again, we've been working actively on FAMs, so it's bringing meeting planners and third parties, so end users, down to the destination. The first FAM that we did was November 2025. We've already had over 4,000 room nights booked from that FAM. We had 8 people here. So we're doing another one, April 14 to 17. We're going to have about another 10 meeting planners and clients to that one, and then another one in August, probably another one in the first quarter of our next fiscal year. And then we encourage the site visits too. So anybody that's thinking about our destination, but maybe they're looking at another one too, we highly encourage them to come down here. We pay for their transportation from the airport. We organize the itinerary for them. We take them to the different hotels. We take them to see off-site events as well and venues in the destination. And from the site visits, we've done 35 so far this year, which is up on last year's at this time, and that's already created over 12,000 room nights. So there's a lot going on in meetings and conferences. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
My question is, how big does the group have to be to qualify for your program?
It's 100 room nights in total.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Stephanie.
From the exciting world of meetings and conferences, we dive into sports with Caleb.
Good morning. I'm Caleb Peterson. I'm the director of the Sports Commission. Excited to tell you about some of the great things we're doing here in sports. I got some slides with pictures. I'm a picture guy. I like to do the visuals and just kind of explain some of the things that we're doing in our space. You guys have all heard about some of the college softball, that we've done. This year, we had 2 tournaments back-to-back, the NFCA and the ESPN softball tournaments. With those 2 events, we had 12 ranked teams that competed in those tournaments, with the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country playing. It's just an example that the best teams in the country come to Clearwater to start their year. Because of the success of some of those events, it's led to other opportunities. Some events that don't, get quite the recognition, or some of our amateur things. Because of the ESPN tournament years ago, we had an organizer reach out and say, hey, this looks like a great destination. I want to bring, one of my tournaments to your guys' city. So that event every year comes down in November, which is the recruiting window for college softball. This past year, they had 82 teams compete in their tournament. 80 of them came from out of the state of Florida. So just an example of the sheer impact that these tournaments can have. That one had 5,000 room nights for the destination. The following weekend, we partnered with an organization called Triple Crown. Very similar. It's a recruiting window where they brought 142 teams to the city of Clearwater. 110 of them were from out of the area. So there's some great things happening in the youth space because of some of the foundation that was built through some of the high-level events that we've done in softball. In the sailing world, on the same weekend that we do the ESPN tournament on President's Day weekend, we host the largest open water regatta in North America down in St. Petersburg. Sailing has been one of those sports that we've seen a great opportunity to build on that, and we've got some news that we'll share later in that space. Baseball, historically, we host about 22 events here annually in the destination. Right now, we're in the middle of Tampa Bay Spring Training, which takes place down at Baseball City in St. Petersburg. That event brings about 90-plus teams to the area every year, and they're bringing teams from Canada, the Northeast, the Midwest down here, where these teams can train and get some games in while it's cold back home. In a similar vein, we do the same thing with lacrosse, where they have a similar program where they bring teams from all over the country to come down here and get some of those early season games in so they can go back to their hometown once it warms up and play. Swimming. We do some great events down in St. Petersburg, the North Shore Aquatic Center. For the one I've got here, the ISCA, they do an East Elite Showcase every year, which brings about 1,800 swimmers to downtown St. Pete, but has a great economic impact in the early part of April. We're currently undergoing renovations at the Long Center in Clearwater, and then Largo's Southwest Recreation Pool just underwent a renovation as well, and they've got the only high dive on the western coast of Florida. So there's some great opportunities to partner and expand some of the impacts into Largo. The volleyball picture, AVP, every year on Thanksgiving weekend, we partner with the AVP to do an East Coast Championship. Every year they bring about 300-plus teams to Clearwater and their families to compete over a Thanksgiving weekend. It's been a great opportunity to kind of fill a need period where maybe some of the group stuff doesn't happen as much because it's a holiday weekend, but they've loved their experience here, and we've been talking to them about trying to expand some of the programming and maybe do some stuff on the pro side with them. In the basketball space, we did a D1 basketball tournament at Eckerd College this year. Generally, on any given year, we do about 2 to 3 college basketball tournaments with Eckerd College, and that's been one that we've tried to grow and expand because there's interest, again, to do some of those early season tournaments in warm, beautiful weather destinations. On the golf front, golf has been one that, we have some great courses here in the destination. We've seen an increased demand for golf events to come to this area. The one I've got highlighted here is the Canadian Junior Golf Association. That's an international golf tournament for amateurs. This past year they had golfers coming from Canada, Germany, China, Bulgaria, Mexico, Thailand, and South Africa. So it is a world draw that's coming to the area. And then this year we partnered with the National Junior Tour, which brings the top junior players in the country to come and compete at Innisbrook. In years past, they had Charlie Woods. We were hoping that he would compete, in Innisbrook this year, but unfortunately, he did not come. But that just kind of speaks to the level of events that we're bringing to the community. In bowling, we've got some great bowling centers here in the destination. So far this year, we've hosted 2 events that brought 1,300 bowlers to the area. They're spending money in our restaurants, in our shops, and in our hotels, providing a great impact for the area. In the hockey space, we have 4 sheets of ice here in the destination, 2 in Clearwater and 2 up in Oldsmar. In hockey, if you guys follow sports, has been a sport that's growing in the state with the success of the Lightning and the success of the Panthers on the other coast. It's really starting to build its root in the youth space. So we've had some success in the November, December, January, and February months where some of these event organizers coming down from Canada and Chicago have been able to draw a healthy amount of youth hockey teams that are providing a significant impact to the area. On the running space, these running events that we host in the community, they're very large events. The majority of them are local participants, but they are drawing a tourism impact. So to highlight a few, we do the Clearwater Marathon each year. They have 2,000 out-of-town visitors that come for that. The Bass Dam Race in Safety Harbor has 1,000 out-of-town visitors, and then the St. Pete Distance Classic has 1,000 out-of-area visitors come for that as well. Tennis is an event a sport we've had a little bit of success in. We've worked with Innisbrook and the St. Pete Tennis Center to host a handful of events each year. Generally, they bring about 500 tennis players to the destination each year. And then my last picture here is hurling. And if you guys have never heard of hurling, it's essentially polo without a horse. So we're always working with these non-traditional sports and trying to find these niche markets that are going to have an impact and bring people to the destination. So just an example of some of the sports that we've dealt with here over the last year. Cliff diving, Quidditch, calisthenics, cornhole, strongman, foot volley, and slippery stairs. So there's all these wide world of sports opportunities that they're always looking for, attractive destinations where they know that if they bring their event here, that they're going to do well and draw in registrations. So in a bit of development news, I'm sure you guys have all heard, the Sproul's Horizon Sports Park opened up in Pinellas Park a couple weeks ago. They had their grand opening. This is a 6-field baseball complex. The fields are about 70% of the actual size of a full-size diamond. They made their fields as replica of some of the spring training MLB baseball fields around the state. So you've got their championship field is designed after the Phillies. So they've got a tiki bar in left field, just like you would find at the real field here in Clearwater. But this is going to be a great boon to the destination. For years we've had event organizers that are begging us for more fields because they've got wait lists for their tournaments, but they just need additional fields so they can continue to grow. As an example, the Triple Crown group that I had referenced earlier, they actually did a soft opening for this facility at the first weekend in February, and that was one that they were able to grow from about 90 teams to about 140 teams because they got an extra 36 teams at this facility. So we're excited about this one. They've partnered with USSSA to kind of be their primary tournament organizer. We've been in conversations with them with how we can help them grow their tournaments here locally and really kind of expand in a national space. And then that group was recently purchased by Unrivaled and the Ripken brand. So they've really have some positive momentum in their organization, and we feel like that's going to be a great impact to Pinellas Park and Pinellas County. All right, Toy Town. So because we had a recent facility open up, wanted to give you guys an update on kind of where things stand with Toy Town. So through a conversation with the developer that had responded to our RFP request, they had identified that we needed to do some additional work to get an idea of what is feasible for development. And essentially, it's really unknown what's in the ground, and so they wanted to go and do some subsurface investigation to kind of get an idea, is vertical development feasible, and then to try to get an idea of what could be designed on the site. So we're in the process of finishing up that work now. We're hopeful that we'll have a report back from the group that's doing the work by early April. That work will then be shared with the developer, who will then go back to the drawing board and come up with a firm plan for the site. We anticipate to have that report back from the developer by the midsummer, and then the staff is planning to have a recommendation to the BCC sometime in the October timeframe. So we're getting closer. It's an exciting, it's exciting time. There's a lot of demand for our destination for events to come in. Our biggest challenge is literally just checking the facility box to have the requisite number of fields or space that they need to do their tournament. And so this last slide is just kind of representation of on the right. You've got the bar slide that kind of shows what we do in terms of number of events, and you can kind of see that softball and baseball are far and away the largest, and that's representative because we have diamond facilities available in the destination. What you don't see a lot of is the rectangle sports, and that's what the intent of that Toy Town facility would be, is adding rectangle fields to our portfolio of facilities in the destinations. But then we can get into the soccer, the lacrosse, the football, and some of those sports that currently we're challenged to find a solution for the number of fields that they're looking for. So with that, any questions?
Any questions? Yes, Russ.
First of all, I'd like to say to Brian, thank you for adding these two programs today. I think it makes it exciting to hear what's going on in the events and everything, and your leadership of both you and Stephanie in this programs and everything. And two of the things that remind me of a little bit is to say some of this could be added to the community involvement of the value of tourism too, to your commissioning meetings and so forth too, because this could be the piece that makes tourism positive for somebody that doesn't necessarily think that this is tourist related on it. The other thing is maybe we could do something also with these events, and I know that we used our tickets and everything for the meeting planners and to develop business and everything, but maybe somehow we can also get a couple of tickets that we could invite commissioners, county commissioners, or somebody in this board to go and see what goes on with one of these. One of those is our Thanksgiving weekend for volleyball, and there's like 90 different nets out there on our beach for a couple of days. It's so family-oriented, age-oriented, from all over they come and to participate. And also, they're in our dining room that night for Thanksgiving dinner. And so it shows what it is. And so, and it wouldn't cost anything to try and get a couple people to go see what that event is. So maybe we can help develop that into another step of this program. I think what you just presented was great, and it certainly shows the added value to tourism, I think, is what you're all doing. Thank you.
And I will say, we have been in conversation with different economic development organizations in the county to leverage the exposure and the opportunities that we have at some of our large-scale sporting events to maybe partner on ways where they can bring businesses down here that are looking to maybe relocate some of their corporate offices. So we're always having those conversations that how can we use sports to be a catalyst to develop in other spaces?
Yes, Chuck.
Thank you, Chair. Caleb, thanks. Great report. Since I've been on this council, we have talked over and over again about how important sports is in the tourism world. And so you have taken this department, and I just applaud you. My not only question, one of the things you talked about were races, running races. And when I think of one of the larger ones in this area, the triathlon, St. Anthony's Triathlon, and it's not mentioned here, but that's one where there's a lot of folks that come in from out of town for that. It's just such an important race. When do we decide to get involved or back some sporting event? Because I didn't see it here mentioned.
Yeah, the reason it's not here is because it hasn't happened yet. I was really trying to reference things that have taken place or things that are kind of imminent right now. So that one takes place in April. We've supported that one every year. Great partners there. We'll continue to support them again this year. So we've been in conversations with them. And you're not wrong. It's the triathlon in the triathlon space is a well-respected race. And then annually, every few years, the USA Triathlon uses it to be a regional or championship level event. And the way that generally works is USA Triathlon doesn't create their own. They look to partner with existing triathlons to then designate it as a championship level event. So it's one that is is well-renowned, and it's been a great event for our destination. So you're spot on.
Thank you very much. And you've just covered the whole spectrum of sports, including hurling now. So I learned something today, so thank you.
Dylan?
Yeah, one thing that I don't see on the list is fishing. Whether or not you think that's a sport is a different conversation, but that is a huge draw to our area, and some of these bigger tournaments, I mean, we have one that I believe is an elite event with King of the Beach. It brings 700 teams in twice a year, you know. Is that something that you guys work on as well?
I didn't reference any of the elite events in my program just because they're serviced through the elite event program. So while we do work with them, it's not something that we're directly involved with.
As it's a elite event.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Because it gets funded through there, they're kind of taken care of through that side of it. We do work with them, again, for, you know, economic development or some of the other, you know, things that can spin off of it from a business development perspective. But no, I don't claim those as ours because they're being serviced through a different program. But no, fishing is a great opportunity in the destination. We do work with some of these organizers for some of the smaller stuff that isn't in the elite event program.
Okay.
When some of these groups are looking to pick a place to go, you said field availability is a big criteria that they look at. What are maybe 2 or 3 other things that they're looking at considering when they compete? You know, I saw something in Manatee that they just opened up, or they're going to open up a field complex to attract sports. You know, what are the other kind of criteria that they look at, and so how do we stand out on that front?
Yeah, it's a business. So where can they take their event where they're going to be able to draw the most registrations and do a successful event? Because ultimately, the largest revenue generator for an event is registrations. So they want to find destinations that are going to be attractive, that they can align with, that are going to be able to draw the most people. So you do see that a lot of these communities are investing in sports facility spaces because they see the benefit of it. And you know, one of the trends that we've seen in the sports space, it's getting a lot of private equity, and a lot of money is starting to be poured into this industry, which makes it, you know, challenging, for us to stay competitive for some of these sports because we don't have that traditional tourism venue to be able to compete. So around us, you know, you've got the Tampa Sportsplex over there in Tampa, which is a, rectangle sports complex. They're building some up in Pasco County. You just referenced the one down in Manatee County with IMG. So it's a competitive space, and it's one that we have the destination they're looking for. So if I can just pull together the requisite number of fields, then it's generally been an easier sell.
You find that when they come here for like a 3-day event,
Mm-hmm.
that they come early, they stay a little later to complete a week, or do you see some of that?
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, that's one of the benefits that we have as a destination. People want to come here independent of some of these other communities. The way that I view it is, you can build a brand new complex, you could put it in Iowa, but once you leave the field in Iowa, where are you going to go? You're just going to go back to the hotel, where if you come here, there's so many things to do to enjoy your visit. So if you're going to spend money and pick a tournament to go to, you want to go to a destination that has a lot to offer outside of just the competition venue. And that's where we really can leverage the strength as a destination and all the great things we have, the arts, the food scene, all the different things that, we highlight for the general tourist. That's a lot of times that's the sports traveler, because unlike a convention, they're not, in the conference center or in the hotel all day. They're out in the community and they're spending money in our restaurant and the different things that we have to do.
Yeah, Phil.
I apologize, you might have covered this, I was reading up on hurling. As I think Chuck said, for years we've talked about a survey or studies or whatever we do to find out exactly what we need to really be able to compete more. Has that ever come to fruition? I know it's been started a couple times, but have we gotten a list of, okay, we need this many baseball fields or this many rectangle fields to really be at the forefront?
Yeah, we've done a couple studies over the years. I think the last one would have been in maybe 15. I mean, it essentially comes back and says, yes, you would do well if you added a sports facility. The challenge is, it's not cheap, and there's not a lot of available land in Pinellas County to develop. And it just seems that the ones that are available are old dump sites that are more than just a flat, piece of grass where you can build on. It takes remediation. It takes a lot of work to get to a point where you can even start to build. So I think there's an understanding that there's a demand for it. It's just a matter of, does it pencil out from a business perspective and does it work, right? And I think that's where we've been trying to figure out, okay, we've got a great piece of land in Toy Town, but there's been a lot of developers that have looked at over the, the last 25 years, and it's always kind of ended where it's been unsure of what's in the ground and what that ultimate cost is going to be. And that's what we're really trying to figure out with all the work we're doing now is what is it going to take? What is that cost? So we can finally make a decision of, hey, let's either do this or then we know, like, okay, this is what it's going to take.
But do we have a target number of fields we need in a complex, target number of baseball fields within close proximity? Do you have something like that?
So generally in the tourism space, for like rectangle fields, they look for at least 8 is kind of the general number that they look for. So if you're anywhere from like 8 to 12, you're in a good spot in terms of hosting tournaments. On the diamond side, they look for anywhere from 6 to 15, 16. So again, it's those similar numbers. And the easiest way to do the math is every diamond, you can get 6 teams per diamond for like a baseball, softball tournament. Kind of similar on the rectangle side, it's about 4 to 6 teams per field. So you can start to do some math and kind of back into it. So I think it's one of those, you kind of got to find a sweet spot of, you don't want to overbuild it because you've got to be able to service it during the week because the recreational and the community programming is what pays the bills. The tourism stuff that happens on the weekend is the cherry on top.
Yeah, I remember when I first got on the commission, I had one of those goofy ideas that we have the waste to energy plant down there, and we could just build a conveyor built across and start getting rid of that pile of stuff down at Toy Town. Everybody kind of like, I think they patted me on the head, said, oh, good idea. And we moved on to the next idea but to me, that's a beautiful piece of property there. If we could, do something with the mountain, because there are other developments in this county that sit on, old dump sites that they have been cleared away, not to that extent, of course, but, and they just monitor them and, and people exist. So, but it is a complicated mess or issue down there. So I'll be curious about that report that comes back.
Yeah, if you look into it, a lot of the recreation facilities that we have in the county are on old dump sites. Yeah. The one that I know off the top of my head is Joe DiMaggio. That's and then there's Philip Jones over in Clearwater. So those are 2 that I know are old dump sites.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, if you didn't get enough of Eddie in round 1, he's back for round 2. He's going to give you some destination metrics.
Oh, no.
I am again. And as a native of Iowa, ouch, there's a lot to do in Iowa. Just outside of town, we have the world's largest truck stop. So, that's, anyways. All right, so jumping into the destination metrics, wanted to give you a little bit more this month, knowing that the next month we will not be here in this room. First off, with our gross collections for January, we're seeing a very consistent performance. In the past couple of years, this year we had 8.3 million in TDT collections for the month of January. It's amazing how consistent this is despite how different the years have been in the past couple of years. Looking into the local option report and our geography-based data, we continue to see vacation rental gross collection or local collections increase. And this obviously indicates that vacation rentals are, generating increased demand as well. So positive to see that over the past 2 years that has been the case. As well as Clearwater Beach, and St. Petersburg, again, having positive numbers compared to the pre-storm numbers in fiscal year 2024. We continue to see our southern kind of beach communities of St. Pete Beach and Treasure Island improve, but there's some work to do there for sure. This is a very consistent storyline that we've now been presenting almost every time we come up here and present the local option report. Again, looking into not just January data, but we'll also have some data signals for February as well. Overall, we have a mobile estimate in the month of January of 1.4 million visitors coming from outside of 50 miles or more of the destination. That is up 18% compared to the previous year. And you can really see those spikes occurring, January 1st, New Year's Day. Obviously, we had a great kind of New Year's celebration this year. And then the weekends preceding in the month of January have all kind of lifted that visitation number for the month of January. In the month of February, we had about 1.5 million estimated visitors outside of the area, and that's a 6.2% increase. There's some notable spikes here. February 14th and February 28th, which was that Saturday race day of the St. Pete Grand Prix, both had over 200,000 visitors for those as a single day. Those are some very impressive numbers for us. As we look at more of the hotel data, some of the trends that we're seeing is a slightly lower rate, but more guest check-ins. However, a shorter length of stay. So we're getting, again, more visitors into our destination, but some of those travel behaviors are maybe generating a little bit less overall demand and revenue when you look at that. And then in the month of February, I think we're really seeing some positive trends return. You know, we're seeing our hotel demand nearly equal last year when we still had some displaced residents in the month of February, but that average hotel stay value is much closer to 2 years ago, where it was mostly driven by our leisure visitors and, you know, visitors coming in for events and sporting events like Caleb brought up. Looking at the vacation rental side of things, we're continuing to see the rate of those vacation rentals go up. We're seeing those check-ins increase over last year. They weren't quite what we saw in our sample from 2 years ago, and that's fairly consistent with some of the other data that we see here in terms of the guest night sample, the revenue sample. Overall, our booking window is about what it was, you know, closer to last year, and the average length of stay is you know, much greater than our hotel stay. So they are different visitors, you know, the ones staying on our vacation rentals versus our hotel. And again, in February, this is kind of a recurring trend where we're seeing some positive momentum from the year after the storms in 2025. And, you know, we know that there's a higher watermark that we've had in the past in 2024 that we hope to get back to. And then just looking at, you know, kind of jumping ahead in terms of what we're expecting for our bigger, you know, spring period. And this is, you know, mostly some really positive news from our hotel sample compared to last year. You know, we're seeing an increase in rate in March and April, as well as May and June, and as well as the rest of the fiscal year. Same thing with our check-in sample, our guest night sample and revenue sample. Those are all very positive numbers, while the booking window is slightly shorter and the average length of stay is, again, shorter. I guess it's a little bit on par when you look at May and June, but that's you know, further out. Kind of just looking at the next 4 months from this hotel sample, you know, we're doing quite well. We're very hopeful that it's going to be a strong March and a strong April this year for us. The hotel revenue sample is very close to fiscal year 2024 in March, and it's above the previous 2 years in April. In May and June, it's closer to those past couple of years. But as we note that the booking window has shortened, there's still some opportunities that those numbers could actually be a little bit above the previous, you know, 2 years when we're looking at this in the rear view. And then from our vacation rental sample, it's a similar story. We are above the previous year. We're not quite where we've been in 2024, but there's some positive momentum from the vacation rental sample that we have as well. A much shorter presentation than the resident survey, but happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Wow, looks like you got off easy.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, move to the...
And last but not least, Steve Grimes is going to come up and he's going to give you a marketing update that is a really good one.
No pressure, Brian. Already describing it as good. I haven't made it to the podium yet. Good morning, everyone. Steve Grimes. Nice to see you all. So whole bunch of stuff to cover, and it is this. We've got some exciting stuff here. First off, we, as you all know, hired a new advertising agency at the end of last year. You met Jason and Vanessa and Lee when they were down here. And they were going through some of how we were going to approach advertising a little differently going forward. So I wanted to just do a quick snapshot, and it is just a tiny snapshot of the vast amounts of data and reports that we get from the agency now, just to sort of show how we're working with them and some of these changes sort of in the real world. So one of the things that we have done is shift a lot more of our advertising to trackable digital advertising from more traditional units. And we're already seeing some huge payoffs from that. You can see this is just a snapshot from last month. Our advertising impressions are up. The clicks on those ads are up. We're spending more, but the cost to drive those impressions has stayed the same. So we're spending more money on digital platforms, but we're spending it efficiently, and we're getting a lot more in the way of results. On our website, which is only one of the many things that we look at, but it's a nice leading indicator. You can see here, month over month, the number of users, and year over year, huge increases in the number of users that are coming to our site. An engaged session is basically somebody that comes to the website and does something, whether that's reading multiple things, watching videos, filling out forms. And then you can see there the Destination Guide, which is our award-winning magazine. We've seen a huge increase in the number of people that are requesting that magazine, both physical copies and the digital copy. So this is just, again, one snapshot that's starting to show that focusing on digital platforms is really driving some engagement with our visitors. The other area that we want to talk about was this notion of precision targeting and then being flexible as the world changes. So first one is our digital ads have been targeting different groups of people. And one of the things that the agency brought to us was, with the trouble in Mexico last month, 6 weeks ago, whatever that was, and all of a sudden people were skittish about traveling to Puerto Vallarta. The agency jumped in and targeted our advertising to people who had been previously searching for Puerto Vallarta and other Mexico destinations. And we saw a really positive response from our family audience there. So people who have kids that were thinking about going to Mexico suddenly were responding to our advertising and seeing this as a really good alternative. Similarly, if you haven't been paying attention, it's been really cold up north, and the weather has been pretty dreadful. And so a couple of weeks ago, when the Midwest and Northeast got hit by the crazy snow, we pivoted some of our advertising to focus on this sort of winter escapee message, and we increased the spend in those places that got hit hardest by the storm, so New York and Boston and Philly. And we've also have been running these billboards that are up and down the I-95 corridor in New York and New Jersey and I-90 in Boston. And those are, we're working with Clear Channel, real-time pulling the temperature difference between where you are and what it is here. Probably drives people in Boston a little crazy when they see this. And so these run when the weather is dreadful. We were about to switch them over to more regular advertising, and then they got hit by yet more snow last weekend. So these are going to run for a little bit longer yet. So we'll keep doing this until the weather up north gets to be a little bit more tolerable. So just an example of how we're staying both focused but also nimble. As the world changes, how do we change our advertising to pivot, to capitalize on events, and make sure that people realize we've got a great destination? So moving on from that, I want to talk a little bit about events. Caleb went through all of the sports events that he focuses on. I want to talk a little bit about two of our big elite events. So Eddie just referenced the Grand Prix being here a couple of weeks ago. This is obviously one of the marquee events for our destination. Brings in a lot of people. And last month, we were here talking about the elite event guidelines and how we are really trying to focus how we invest our TDT dollars in events in a more deliberate fashion. And sort of the two criteria that we really focus on are you bringing people to the destination, and does your event allow us to tell our story to the world? And this is an event that does that probably better than any other. So we're bringing in tens of thousands of people to the destination, and we have 3 days of national television coverage, with the practices on Friday on FS1, and then this year with the inaugural NASCAR truck race, we had that on Fox, and on Sunday we have the opening of the IndyCar season also on Fox. So I look at that as 6 hours of television commercials showing the world how great this place looks. Stealing an idea from Adriana, who clearly, as you point out, Ms. Regas, does all of the work at our place. They put down, she mentioned the clings that went down at the various hotels for the softball tournament. We took that idea and added it to Pi. So we worked with our friends at the airport, and we did this to welcome race fans as they were coming. All of the doors, all of the exits at Pi had a welcome message from St. Pete Clearwater to race fans, just creating that sense that something big's going on in the destination. And then we wanted to focus our promotional efforts with the race on how do we get seen on TV. At the end of the day, it's great that there are 75, 80, 100,000 people down here watching the race. That's fantastic. They're already here. They can see for themselves how great it is. How do we use the TV audience to share our message? So this year we worked with the folks at the Grand Prix to change one of the signs. So this is the turn 13, which is the turn right as you go around to the straightaway. It's the last major turn on the track. And the cars are at their almost slowest at this point. The Grand Prix had never turned this into one billboard before. So we use this, as you can see it, to very clearly promote America's favorite beaches and so much more. This is an actual screenshot from Fox TV. So this was seen hundreds of times as each car went past, and they kept showing it over and over again. The other thing that we noticed last year was there's a lot of aerial shots. And that's great, but when they're looking down, there wasn't a lot you could see. So working with our friends at the city, we added a sort of joint partnership here where we painted onto the grass for the first time, visitstpete.com. And that redirects to the Visit St. Pete Clearwater, St. Petersburg section of our website. So anybody that sees this and is like, where is this place? How can I learn more? They get to come to visitstpete.com and check that out. So this was, again, fantastic, seen multiple times during the race. And it's something that the Grand Prix guys are excited about, looking to expand next year, where we can look at all of the sort of surface area of the airport grass and think, what can we do with that now? So hoping to do something much more ambitious, working with Tony Lino and his team to figure out what we can do at the airport. It wasn't just us covering it. We had our, we had our TV folks. Almost 3 million people saw the races between YouTube, where you can see the stats at the bottom there. More than 300,000 people have already watched the race highlights and recap. NASCAR trucks, almost 160,000. More than 1 million people tuned in for the NASCAR race, and 1.4 million people tuned into the Indy race, which is right on par with their record last year. So very exciting TV numbers. So that's a lot of people that got to see our signage going around the track. And then, in addition to TV coverage, there's also social media. So we, excuse me, we have worked with not only our own social media team to get out as much message. We've also worked with our 727 Society and run some paid advertising as well. So you can see some of the numbers there. Millions of people viewing us through social media, which, as we all know, is one of the primary ways that people are consuming content these days. Just threw in here just a sample of some of the kinds of content. We brought our 727 Society down. That's the group of local influencers. They all live in the destination. And their sort of payment for working with us is access to events. And in exchange for doing that, they help us tell a broader story of how great it is to be at some of these events. One of those influencers, we got to go around the track in the pace car. And this is her experience.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
I must really be an experience-aholic, because tell me why I just signed my life away to do something a little insane. I got to experience test driving the track for the Grand Prix in St. Pete in a pacer car. And let me tell you, it was kind of crazy, intense, but so much fun. Like, this is the same track that the pros fly through every year at this event. The whole experience was so unreal. Getting to see some of the Indy cars that are going to be racing this weekend.
Okay.
Up close in person was also just so cool. And this is the moment when my nervousness starts kicking in a little bit. The whole experience was unreal. The energy, the turns, it honestly gives me a whole new appreciation for how skilled these drivers really are. Because let me tell you, those corners come up fast. I was screaming on the inside, smiling hard on the outside, thinking, how is this real life right now? Truly a bucket list moment, and now I cannot wait to watch this iconic race this weekend with the actual pros doing their thing.
So by using these influencers pre-race, during the race, post-race, it gets us to extend our storytelling. And those of you who were watching closely may have spotted our own Jessica Morrow being thrown around in the back of the car next to the influencer, trying to keep track of phones and other things in the back there. So that's the Grand Prix. Great, very exciting. Now we have to quickly turn the page and start talking about golf. Because this week we've got the Valspar Golf Tournament up at Innisbrook. Another one of our biggest events, another one with a great TV audience. Completely different situation. We can't put signage around Innisbrook. That's not how it works with the PGA Tour. So we work closely with the organizers about how do we get the message out about the event. So this year we partnered with Rondé Barber, a PGA Tour player, Stephen Yeager, and a golf influencer and personality named Will Lowry. And we created a piece of video that has been sent around on all sorts of different social channels and YouTube. So I won't play the whole thing because the long video is about 11 minutes. It's on YouTube. I strongly encourage you to go check it out. But here's one of the previews that goes along with that.
Y'all want a challenge?
I'm with it. Let's go.
3 bucket challenge at 3 iconic locations. We get 60 balls, varying sizes of buckets, and we go to my 3 favorite locations in town. Here we go, first challenge. Huge bucket. If you can't hit this one, this challenge is gonna be really tough for y'all. TD Ballpark, perfect place for our second challenge.
Small bucket.
Small bucket, right? Who wants to go first? Last shot, water all around us. Smaller bucket.
It decreases my chances of winning, but I mean, I'm all up for challenges. I think so too.
One at a time, 1 minute, let's go.
He's my favorite PGA Tour pro. I just want everybody to know that, right? Hey, can we get a little crowd noise, please? Thank you.
Oh!
Here we go. There it is. There we go.
Oh my God!
Oh, heads up! Heads up! Oh. I had sand going in my mouth 3 times.
So the premise there was that Rondé had bumped into these guys up at Innisbrook and was like, yeah, they're practicing their sand shots. He's like, no. I got a sand shot challenge. So as you can see, we went to Clearwater Beach where just so happens Mayor Rector is walking up and down the beach greeting people and makes his way into the video. So if you watch the full length version, you'll get to see the mayor. And then at each time we actually manufactured a giant box of sand that we took then to TD Ballpark and then we took to the pier at St. Pete and had them play sand shots into ever-decreasing smaller buckets. So these guys had a lot of fun. We've got a ton of great publicity from this. So again, another example of sort of taking the assets and like, how do we get creative? How do we tell our story? So that's quick pivot to a completely different topic. I mentioned the advertising agency and the switch from advertising agency. They've now been on board for 6 months. They've been working diligently on getting all of this stuff going, all of the efforts that I mentioned earlier. But it's now time to start thinking about a new campaign. And so we want to evolve our message. We don't want to make a huge change. We want to continue, that challenge that other Florida destinations we feel all look kind of the same. And if you switch out the logos, can you tell one beach from another? So we really wanted to continue that idea of standing out from the crowd. The Ampersand campaign that we've been running for the last 15 months, we think has very much done that. It's bold, it's bright, and very noticeable. One of the challenges with working with that campaign is this notion of it's always got to be something and something. That 50-50 split presents some real creative challenges at times, and we feel like that may have run its course. And we now feel like it's time to get more into emotion and storytelling and really being able to tell more of what this destination has to offer in ways that really that campaign was not letting us do. So you'll see this is a revised statement from last year, but very much the same thematic. Every beach destination promises sunshine and memories made in the sand. But in St. Pete Clearwater, our promise stretches far beyond the shoreline. Yes, our white sand beaches are world-class, best in the world in some cases. But this is a place where you can bask in so much more than sunshine. Here you can catch some rays and catch a show, build a sandcastle and sleep at a palace, lay out on white sand beaches and dig into world-class dining. There is a unique cultural side to St. Pete Clearwater. Some may say we have our own beach culture. So this is the concept for where the campaign is going to go. What I have coming up here are not finished ads. Just to stress that, the agency will kill me if they think that I'm presenting these as final ads. This is the concept. This is just to give you an idea of where, over the next couple of months, they're going to refine this with an intent of launching this campaign in the May-June time period. They're going to be coming down here to do a whole new photo and video shoots in the coming weeks. So all of these that you see right now are using the existing assets that we already have. We're going to be changing a lot of that. Not that they'll be wildly different, but you'll see a different look and feel. So what does beach culture mean? Well, we're going to continue to target our messages very precisely. And for some people, it's going to mean a beach-forward message. And for other people, it's going to mean a culture-forward message. And as each of those audiences will get a little bit of both, but the skew will depend on what it is we think is going to motivate them based on the data signals that we're getting back. So for instance, here's an example sitting on the beach, but people love our museums just as much. Or pack your shades, our chefs really shine. White sand beaches and wows they'll remember. And each of these telling a slightly different story. Melt into more than a beach chair, the Dali Museum there. Or, as you all know, we are the official beaches of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This year, they are going to be welcoming to Ray J the Packers, the Vikings, the Browns, and the Steelers for cold weather markets that I think are going to enjoy coming down here for some football, but they need to bring the sunscreen for their game face because they're going to be spending time at the beach. So this is just a smorgasbord of the kinds of things and what this is going to look like. We see all sorts of different opportunities, different places that this campaign can run, right the way down to creating our own beach culture line of swag. So very excited for this. As I said, lots and lots of work still to be done on this, but wanted to sort of bring you behind the curtain a little bit and show you where we're going and why we're doing it. Again, if any eagle-eyed observers may notice also on this execution here that our logo is slightly different. That is also something that we're refining. So we will be rolling out over the next few weeks, not a drastically changed logo, but I would describe it as a modernized version of our logo. A little bolder, a little easier to see on signage at, say, a Grand Prix, and a little bit more current. So that's going to be something that we'll present to you guys when we're back here in May, but you may start to see it in some places as we roll out. It'll ultimately be part of the new campaign launch, but we will be putting it into places where the asset is going to live past the launch of this campaign. So for instance, when opening day happens at the Trop, our new signage there will include this new logo because we don't want to have to replace the signage halfway through the season. So, a lot of stuff, but we're not done yet. There's yet more. 2027. Caleb hinted at sailing. He mentioned that we've done a lot with sailing. We've had the World Regatta here 3 years running. Now we've got something very exciting. So for all of the sailing events in the world, there's really just one that sailors consider the pinnacle event, sort of the Mount Everest of sailing, if you will. It's the ocean race. Used to be called the Whitbread Round the World for those that are as old as me, or the Volvo Around the World race after that. This is the literally all the way around the world yacht race. And it's arguably the toughest test of any team when you have to live and do everything together in the middle of an ocean. And it really does connect the world. There's international teams. It stops in 15 cities, 5 continents, goes all the way around the world. And this is the map for 2027. So it starts in Alicante, Spain. It goes to South America. It goes to Auckland. It goes to Brazil. It stops somewhere in the US. Then it goes to Europe. Well, we're delighted to announce that this year, So, yeah, we are going to be the only North America stop for this iconic race, which is pretty awesome. Why is it a big deal? So, this is an example of the Ocean Live Park that was in the race 3 years ago. This is what we're going to be building in St. Pete. And in addition to that, we're going to have these amazing yachts in port for 12 days. There's going to be events in and around the area. We're expecting tens of thousands of people for the event. The economic impact, I think, will run into the many, many millions. And this is not only a great opportunity to bring lots of people to the destination and to show it off, but we now have the next 12 months with a worldwide audience to show them what St. Pete Clearwater is all about. So the first race in this series that we will be a part of is, there's a transatlantic sort of pre-race that goes from New York to France, leaves in September. We'll be a part of that. And then obviously as the build up to the start of this race in January of 2027, we've got a whole world audience that will now be able to sort of showcase St. Pete Clearwater to. And then we're excited that our leg starts in Brazil and comes up to us. Brazil is a great market for us, so we'll be able to be down in Brazil and working with them as well. There'll be a wealth of opportunities to get people down to check out the boats. So many opportunities. Very excited. We've got a lot of work ahead of us for the next 12 months, but I think this is a really, really exciting opportunity. So that's all I got.
Where does the race start?
Alicante, Spain.
Well, that's the start.
Yeah, so it starts there and then goes left around the world.
Speechless.
Any
Incredible.
Any questions on any of that stuff?
Yeah.
I realized there was a lot of different things in there.
Phil.
Let's go back to the beginning.
Yes.
On the new focus on more digital, you said that your spend was up 51%, but your administrative cost to place that spending was not up at all.
Correct. Well, not the administrative cost, the cost that we were paying per click. So the amount when you look at the number of clicks that we were getting, we're not paying any more to drive that additional traffic.
Okay, but to administer it, have you spent more to do that? Because I know they're very focused on targeting, which takes a little more work.
Yes, but what's great is they're being more precise, but we're not spending any. It's not costing us any more to be more precise right now. Right. Again, these are all flexible. This was last month. These are very fluid stats. It depends on what they were able to buy, how the bidding was going that particular month. So it does vary. That's really more directionally to say we're spending more money, but we're keeping our costs in check.
Right. It's a good spend.
Yes, exactly.
Very good spend. Yeah, and I talked with them a little bit, and that's one thing they do focus on is the way they target to make sure that you're spending that in the right place instead of just scattergun.
Exactly right. Yes. I mean, the example that we've used many times is, rather than advertising in Chicago, it's advertising in the right zip codes in Chicago to the right people in Chicago with those that have a likelihood to travel. It's a big city. Not everybody from Chicago is going to come here. Finding the ones that are likely to come here is the key.
A higher conversion rate.
Yes, exactly.
Great.
Yes, Dylan.
I love the evolution of the beach culture. That was really cool. I think they lived up to a lot of what they said they could do.
Yeah, we're excited to see where that goes.
And that billboard seems just kind of mean.
Yeah. Yes.
Chuck. Thank you, Chair. Brian, I applaud you and the team for landing this huge event. This could rival the St. Pete Grand Prix when we look at those numbers. Can you talk a little bit about who's behind this, putting this together in St. Petersburg?
Yeah, I would defer to Steve on that, but this is a project that over the last year and a half to 2 years, these conversations have been in the work between sports team, marketing team, City of St. Petersburg, event organizers, and from the idea of bringing this event here to where we are today with an announcement that it's actually coming here has been a heavy lift, and I credit everyone involved in those efforts. And Steve can maybe, he's been the lead on those, and he can maybe give some more inference there.
Yeah, So actually, I should have mentioned about 45 minutes ago, the release went out, so the world now knows that we're hosting this event. It has been, it's a collaboration between ourselves, the City of St. Petersburg, USF, St. Pete Yacht Club, and then that's sort of the conglomerate that are working in the St. Pete area.
Hey, Steve, could you speak in the
I'm
mic?
sorry.
You know, it's okay.
Yeah, so I said the organization within our area is a combination of ourselves, the City of St. Petersburg, USF, St. Pete campus, and the St. Pete Yacht Club. So that's the sort of the group of people that are part of the sort of organizing and pulling all of those pieces together. There is an organizing committee headed up by a gentleman named Rob Ritz. He's part of that organization. He's the stopover director for the event. But the actual race itself is being managed by the Ocean Race out of there, Alicante. So it's part of that. I'm trying to think of a good analogy. It's sort of like they are the league, if you will. They are the people that are actually bringing this here.
And when we think about an elite event, this is clearly going to be an elite event. So do we reach out to them, or are we in collaboration with them for the applications are due for 2027 right around the corner? But I truly believe we have to get behind this, both with our teams as well as our dollars. So I'm anxious to see how we're going to try to support that.
Yes, we've penciled that out, and it will be both a part of elite event funding next year, and it'll be part of our marketing spend next year.
Congratulations to the team on landing this.
Anybody else? So Steve, I'm just looking at, I'm always mesmerized by maps. And so they start in Spain, they go down around Africa, they head out towards Australia, and then to Brazil, and then from us, that's the last leg back.
No, so it goes from actually, let me pull the map back up. There we go. It leaves St. Pete, it'll go under the Skyway, and it'll go straight across the Atlantic to Cascais in Portugal. And then from Cascais, it'll go through the Mediterranean and actually finish in Saudi Arabia, all things being sorted out by the end of 27.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're not quite the last leg, but we're.
But the transatlantic leg is sort of one of the more iconic ones. But yes, we're probably 3/4 of the way through the race at that point.
So when they get to each of these stops, they stay for a period of time. They get regrouped, they get,
Yeah, so there's
energized.
regrouping, there's obviously, maintenance and whatever needs to happen on the boats, but there's also mini races within the event itself. So details are still being worked out, but we're hoping to get events both in Tampa Bay and then also along the beaches. We'd love to see these yachts race up and down from Paso Grill to Pier 60 or something like that. So we've been talking to the organizers about how we can make this truly a county-wide event and not just downtown St. Pete.
So once they've done that, then they take off on the race.
Then they'll all leave together and they'll all go under the Skyway together, and there'll be a great shot as they all head out to the Atlantic.
This is exciting.
It's going to be, yeah. And there will be chances for, Ocean Race Live. It's a free, event for people to come check out the boats. There's simulators. It's really a pretty epic experience.
Dylan.
So the group you mentioned, USF, the Yacht Club, I assume they're working together on development too, because you're going to have to develop dock space for this area.
So yes, I'm probably not the right person to give you the specifics on the dock space, but right now the boats are, the plan is by the USF campus down there where the deep water docks are. That basin is where the boats will be.
Cool.
Potential length of stay, I'm sorry, potential length of stay when they're.
12 days is approximately. There's a little bit of wiggle room because you don't know how fast the wind's blowing. You don't exactly know when the boats are going to get here, but they're pretty certain it'll be May 4th-ish to May 16th-ish.
Phil.
So is it a continual race? Do they start at different times from here to continue the race, or they all go to the bridge at the same time?
They'll all arrive at different times, and I believe they all leave together. I have to swat up on my ocean racing technology. I don't know all the ins and outs, but that's my understanding.
Is it like a bunch of independent races, or is it?
They are all racing each other, but I think it's, I would equate it to the Tour de France, where each leg, you have a time, and then those times are added together, see who goes around fastest.
So they'll be leaving together, so it'll be quite a scene.
Yes, hopefully, yes. Don't quote me on that.
That's what I was wondering. It's like if somebody comes in like a half a day ahead of the last place, don't they leave in that same way to keep the stagger going?
I'm going to wish that I had somebody from the Ocean Race here to answer that question.
Yeah. Yeah, Bruce, Mayor, excuse me.
Yeah, I want to applaud this because I think it's the aspect of, the Grand Prix that it's not just that we get viewership on Fox, it's that we get viewership for auto racing all around the world. And Valspar will get a lot of that too, because there's a lot of golf fans throughout the world who will watch it this week. And our designation in Clearwater recently is, one of the top 24 beaches in the world. Well, I think all that's really important. We all know that right now it's a very challenging time to draw international tourists with everything going on, but that tends to run, in cycles. And when they do come back, they tend to spend more than domestic tourism here. So, but I think the point people sometimes miss is that this kind of event helps domestic tourism as well. Identifying our destination as an international recognized place really helps with domestic tourism, because now I think it makes our destination more attractive to domestic tourism because they see us elevated above what they might see other destinations. So this is fantastic. I think the more of this we can do, the better. So congratulations to the team.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. There's a lot of people who spend a lot of time trying to pull all of these pieces together to make it work. But I would just echo everything you just said. I think the last race 3 years ago was seen in 107 countries. So I mean, that exposure alone is fantastic. And then, on top of that, there's all of the other ancillary benefits that we'll get. And I think, St. Petersburg area has had a long history of sailing. And, Caleb mentioned, the sailing tournaments we have here. I think this really quite literally puts us on the map as a marquee sailing destination. And I think that's great for the future and what we can build on.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Anybody else?
I would just add that from our focus, obviously, we're focused on the tourism, driving awareness of the destination aspect of these, the economic impact that this is going to create within the destination. But you will hear more. This is more than just a race to bring people to the destination and a race to watch on TV. This is the research, the sustainability aspects, the connections to what's going on down at USF and the College of Marine Sciences, the research hub down there. This is a pretty incredible event, and so you'll hear more about that, and it's a really big deal. And just to follow up with Captain Hubbard asking about where the space is going to be, well, they give you rides in the Indy cars and the two-seaters. They're not going to take you across the Atlantic on these, so if that's what you were getting at.
But they will let you out on the boat.
Yeah. Yeah, and to your point, and so much more. There's still so much more to come and so much more benefits, so much more excitement. The connectivity around the world to our location at a time when connectivity around the world is more and more important. So I'm excited on so many fronts about this.
I'll just one more thing, just building on what Brian just said. In places they've stopped before, there's always been an education component. There's already been conversations, outreach to Pinellas County schools. I think there's so many ways that the tentacles of this event can spread out throughout the county and really have a positive impact.
Agreed. I think that's great. Okay. Thank you very much for a few little things that are going on. Wow. Okay.
Well, for the sake of time, Mr. Chair, I probably put one too many presentations on this agenda, so I'm going to run through just a couple highlights I have that I want to make you aware of. It's all positive news. Last week, Dali Museum, they finished in USA Today's rankings as a top 5 museum in the United States. And in addition to being recognized for being a top 5 museum in the United States, you hopefully read that they have announced their expansion project, and you will be hearing more about that as they roll out additional information. So we're excited about our friends down at the Dali. Southern Living, they released their the South's Best of 2026, and none other than the city of St. Petersburg was named as a top 10 best city in the South, and they were ranked the #1 best city in Florida. So give it up for our friends in St. Pete. And in St. Pete Beach, the Don Cesar was named the #6 Best Classic Hotel in the South. So they continue to bring home the awards. They're not the only ones. Our team was recently recognized in Berlin at ITB, the Golden City Gate Awards. We received 2 recognitions. We got a gold star for the palette and palette activation and campaign that we did up in New York. And we also received the Silver Star for our brand video. So I wanna give a shout out to the team who worked on both of those efforts. And last year we were announced that we have 4 Michelin Guide restaurants within the destination. We get another shot because April 14th, they're gonna be announcing the 2026 Guide edition. So keep a lookout for that. Those are folks who have won awards, but we've also got some folks looking to remain on top of their categories for certain awards. That includes the Starlight Cruises. They're nominated once again. They're there to defend their title as the best dinner cruise in the country. And so you can go on and vote for that now through April 13th, I believe, Mr. Henderson?
Every device, every day.
Every device, every day. I like it. But we don't only have one boat on this board that's nationally recognized as a champion. We have another one to our left attempting to defend their title is the best charter boat from USA Today, and that's Hubbard's Marina. And that will open up March 30th, so just after, or I guess in the middle of the other one. So make sure you vote early and vote often. And I will wrap it up there, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. And it has been a little bit longer a meeting, but Russ, I think you made a comment, a couple new presentations, really good to have them on board here with us today, and that's good stuff.
My only thought is that this has been a great meeting, great announcements and everything. And now how are they going to top it for May?
May, I don't know. That's why they canceled April, I guess, because they got.
If you thought this was good, just wait until May, because May is the budget.
Wow, there you go. How's that for excitement? Put it right down. Yeah. All right, before we wrap it up, anybody have any comments or thoughts? Chuck.
Thank you, Chair. Beaches, thank you very much. The BCC and the county managed to redo our beaches, and they're more beautiful than ever, so thank you. I've seen the pictures up and down. But we've talked about, from a federal standpoint, over and over again over the years, and how we can get Army Corps to join back with us and help with this beach renourishment. Do we have any updates coming up or any dialogues going on at the present?
And I always, whenever I talk about this, I always commend, we go back several years, but Kathleen Peters and her efforts during her tenure, and then Brian last year working with our staff, and Kelly at our Public Works group, working with our local representatives, all of our state representatives, our federal representatives, and Congresswoman Luna has been a stalwart to help us get things really moving up there. We've had a lot of positive input, but at the same time, and more importantly, they're receiving that input really, really well. There's a new day at the Army Corps. I think they have recognized that they want to put something in place that is more like what we've been doing, that shared opportunity, but that doesn't change every couple of years when somebody up there has a different interpretation. So it's not only taking care of the problem so we have that partner, but also making sure in the future we still have that partner. And because, folks at the Army Corps come and go, and interpretations come and go, and we don't want that to happen again. This partnership is extremely important, and I know that we're not there yet, but we're very close at I won't say inking a deal, because I don't know exactly what we do with the federal government on that front, but to make sure it's secure, that funding partnership, which is super critical. But it couldn't be much more positive than we've had. We've had like excitement maybe, and then we back off, and then a little, and then we back off. And so this time we really feel that we're right there, and everybody up there is speaking from the same thing. Brian and I think Commissioner Scheer and Commissioner Scott, both went up on a NACO trip to Washington and met with a lot of the Army Corps upper brass, and they were embracing all of this. So very encouraging. I don't know that we have anything finalized yet, but encouraging, we'll say. So
It's hard to meet the excitement of today's meeting in the ocean race, but we'll stand by and hopefully that'll be our next big wow.
maybe May. No, I don't know about that. That'd be a lot to ask for, but maybe. You never know. We always move, it moves in slow. Anybody else have any final thoughts before we wrap it up? All right, well, we'll see you all back here in May, and this meeting is adjourned.